Raider Nation, it's time to stand up.
Hey, just one time, I need it. Raiders. Third down and a long one. Jacobs back in the game. The rookie for the touchdown.
Snap of the gun. He's sacked. He is going down. Max Crosby.
Pass on the slant, complete for a lot of yardage. Hunter Renfrow off to the races.
It's time for the Cover 3 Deep Raiders podcast. Nobody covers the silver and black like these guys do. So whether it's Monster Mash Ken from the East Coast, Dwayne Douglas from the West Coast, or Sean, a.k.a. Oahu Raider from the Pacific, this crew knows the men in black. This is the Cover 3 Deep podcast. They cover 3 deep so you don't have to. Raider Nation, here's your hosts, Sean Oahu Raider, Monster Mash Ken, and Dwayne Douglas. Enjoy the show.
And welcome, Raider Nation. Please stand up. Please. I know it's hot about everywhere in the country right now. Raider Nation, Cover 3D Raider Nation podcast here for you guys today. And we got a whole lot of things going on. Please make sure you rate, review, and subscribe. And hit us up on that text line. It is 858-433-5689, by all means. Please hit us up there, and also go on Facebook Live as well today. And we have a special guest on our show today. We have, of course, before I introduce her, we have myself, Dwayne Douglas, podcasting out the beautiful state of California on the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day on the beach today. My brothers was out there surfing today. It was beautiful. And then you have Sean Oahu Raider out there in Hawaii, and Monster Mash Ken out there.
Hey, yo.
All right. And now, from the hottest place on earth, we have Heidi Fang. She is, of course, from the Review Journal out there in Vegas and the Vegas Nation podcast. Heidi, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, except for the 118 degrees. You all sound like you have great locations out there. I'm going to come join you in Hawaii or in California or something.
That's the best place. That's the best place to go. So the Raiders, obviously, it's a huge move for them from Oakland now out to Vegas. So I'm sure the buzz is out there going crazy about what the Raiders are with the stadium and everything like that. Question I have would be first about you. How did you know? How did you start? How did you know you wanted to get into this whole sports scene? Can you give us a little background on that?
Yeah, since I could walk, I was always just into sports. You know, my family were big sports heads. My father's been a coach his entire life, so I grew up when I was after school going over to games and watching my brothers play, Pop Warner or whatever, and just standing on the sideline. And like one of my friends used to say, I always imagined that you were like that little girl, remember the Titans, going like, call the jet sweep, coach. What's wrong with you? Call the blitz. You know, like something like that. That was just how I grew up. It was just part of the family life and just what I knew.
That's cool. We live in difficult times. You have protests. We have COVID-19. Has that taken a little bit of the buzz off the Raiders' first year in Vegas?
Yeah, it's been tough because I think a lot of people were really looking forward to getting into Allegiant, to seeing it. There were all these concert plans. There were events for the draft that were planned to be over there and for people to get a first look, a first glimpse. But now it's just been so sidelined by everything. You don't even know right now if fans are going to be able to pack the stadium. And that, I think, is really disheartening for a lot of people who really wanted to get out here for games. And you don't even know if you can yet. You know, we don't even know if that. I think Garth Brooks was supposed to be the big flagship event that was to kick off Allegiant. You can't even count on that right now. So we're going to have to wait and see how this all plays out. But it's definitely taken some buzz off for sure.
Especially with this roster, it's Gruden and Mike Mayock's vision. Is there a player or a couple of guys here or a unit itself that you're just really excited to watch this year?
I can't even explain like how many of the players I'm excited to see. There's so many new faces now that you guys are going to have out there. Like if you look at just the linebacker core to start with, I'm really excited to see what Corey Littleton's going to do. I love the fight that you hear out of, look at this, Tanner Muse. Yeah, I just spoke with Tanner. He is just, real a spark plug. And talking to somebody like Amik Robertson, who just sounds
Oh
like he
yeah.
has got a
Oh, yeah.
ton of bark in him, and that, man. So there's a lot of the defense. I think I'm really excited to see how the linebackers are going to look once they get all out there, and then you have the defensive tackle and Malik Collins, and there's some huge additions to this team. And go on the offensive side, I think everyone's dying to see what Ruggs is made of once he gets out there. You have Brian Edwards, you have Tyrell, you have Hunter Renfro, Jason Witten. How is he going to play into all this? There's just so many. You can just go on and on. I'm excited for just to see how much different this team is going to look on the field, especially healthy, compared to what we saw last year.
No, yeah, absolutely. Sean here out here in Hawaii, but quick question for you. So being rooted like with your Vegas attachment, you and Dwayne hit on it a little bit already, but you're talking about outside of football, outside of whatever happens, Las Vegas is the internet capital of the world. I mean, some of the biggest musicians, entertainers have established their careers there, have had a home base or a part-time home, to share that with the world. So now what I'm thinking is like Mark Davis took a big act of, breaking the mold and went out there, and we're going to have a world-class stadium. Eventually there will be football played. We don't know what will happen now, but what is the drop off as far as, because as a Raider fan, like I'm like, trying to pinpoint like what's going on. I know the NFL has its own thing, but for us, like the most exciting thing I can watch right now is Derek Carr and a bunch of guys with no shirts on throwing routes in a little league park somewhere in the middle of Henderson, Nevada, wherever it is. And it's like, that's what's keeping my blood boiling. But outside of that, I'm like, the Raiders there's no like how do we keep that going? So what is the marketing like? How is that working? What do you see it in that city who had such a successful campaign with the Golden Knights, with the hockey, the NHL team? How do you see that coming into play? Do the Raiders need to do more as an organization to lure in these fans, or what's the climate there?
So far, what I've seen is that they're doing a lot of community outreach, and I can really appreciate everything that they are participating in right now. You have some of them that are buying lunches for kids who aren't
Great.
able right now to eat off of their school programs.
Yep.
Because you just don't have the regular sessions happening. So that's one thing. You have I believe it's Hunter Renfro and Foster Moreau involved with the 3 Square program, which feeds family in need. You have the Max Crosby effort right now that he's doing with the children's hospitals, and I believe Jonathan Abrams a part of that, and I think your boy Muse too. So there's a lot of them that are coming out that are really making their presence known to the city. So that's really important. They did a lot with the high schools out here that didn't have football fields. There were a ton of high schools out in the east side of Las Vegas that just really had no place to play. And some of them were playing out of Sam Boyd. And that doesn't sound like such a bad thing. You're talking about busing kids who can't afford to get their own way out there, whose parents are working, that have families that aren't able to contribute to the programs. So the Raiders took care of 4 fields for the schools in needs. So that's something that I can really just say, wow, they really are making a big impact already in the community.
No, that's great. And I can personally, being on Oahu, like, because we lost the Pro Bowl, but when the Pro Bowl would come out here, the impact, people don't know that on TV, or just like what you're sharing with us. Like, we don't know all this information, but the same thing, they would come out here and buy cleats and shoulder pads and visit high schools and just decorate kids with so many, different things to help ends meet for them to be successful and be, getting kids into sports programs and, off the streets and such. So that mirrors a lot. And that's good to hear. I think that's kind of the basis of the entire country right now, is whoever is in that hurting place, is a lot of people are reaching out. So I appreciate you sharing that. Next question is going to be a little bit more basis on the success of the team. So if and when we do have a 2020 season, we're talking Derek Carr, who's been 6 years. He's going to hit his 7th year. He's got the franchise money. He was at one time the highest paid quarterback. Right now Mahomes is, which is of a totally different essence. But at the time, Raider fans were like, well, Carr's just getting the franchise deal. So, and then we had Gruden, who is the highest paid coaching contract of all time. But since then, we've even seen who Carolina brought in. They brought in a college coach, and his guaranteed money is upwards of what Gruden's getting. Regardless, I'm just looking at it. First rollout, the playoff expansion, there's an extra slot to make. John Gruden, Derek Carr, we've talked about it so many times on the show. John Gruden has not drafted a single quarterback since he took over the Raiders in his second stint. So obviously he's invested. Mayhawk has doubled down on that with Derek. So Derek and Gruden, year 3, it's the typical, hey, year 3, same system, everything, teams improve. What do you look at this as seeing? What is the pinnacle? What do they need to reach as far as a win-loss total to keep this thing moving in the right direction?
Yeah, 7-9 isn't going to cut it this year. I think it definitely has to be a playoff spot. One of those wild cards probably looking at, just because if you assume Kansas City stays healthy and
Right.
they do what they do, I would think that the Raiders would have to contend for a wild card spot. And I think that they are capable of that, especially when you see the teams that they have. But they do have a hard schedule in front. You look at the odds makers here in Vegas, and right now they're only, I think, favoring them in 3 or 4 games, if I'm right. And the Raiders are going to play underdog in the rest of them. So they're going to have an uphill battle, and I think they're capable, definitely. And I think they have the talent in place. And I think with Carr now having worked for, what is it now, this would be his 3rd year under the same offensive coordinator with the same system, with the same coaches. So that is going to be a definite plus for him. And you have to look at all the different wide receivers he had to work with in the past when he was expecting he who should not be named. And now we have different
Right.
people that should be able to plug into this offense. And something I really like about this offense, I've been thinking, Josh Jacobs, you got Tyrell Williams, you got Henry Ruggs, you got Brian Edwards, you got Hunter Renfrow, you got Foster Moreau, you got Darren Waller. All these pieces in place mean that defenses are going to have a very hard time to stack the box to rush on the inside of the Raiders. And that's going to open up, I think, a lot of things and a lot of avenues, a lot of opportunity for Derek Carr. So this is going to be a make or break year for, I think, both Carr, for Gruden, for everybody. This is going to be the year they have to do it. They have to get over. So to answer the question, I would say, man, it's got to be a playoff record at least 9 wins. I think would be considered a success. But to make the playoffs and to be in it in the postseason is absolutely successful.
Yeah, I think I mirrored that like last year. Like, I'm not the biggest Derek Carr fan, but I understand what he's good at. And just seeing those highlights of him and AB, there's only a little bit. I understand they're in shorts and shells, but seeing Carr throw the ball 30, 40, 50 yards down the field was so relieving to me. I was like, we got the piece. We're working. And obviously that broke on our back really hard. Mayock is our first-time GM, who put his neck out there, said, I don't sign the big ticket guys. I don't do this in free agency. We're going to build. No, you invested in somebody who was a circus stunt. So it's a good thing, I think, for Mayock in his first year to learn from that. But absolutely, I agree with you. I think everything's on the table. I'm highly optimistic about the season. I think they're looking upwards of 11 wins. I don't think their schedule is as hard as Vegas is looking at it and everyone else is. I think last year going to London, coming back, playing 2 East Coast games, coming back, doing a bye, their travel schedule was brutal, and it always is. So this year I feel like the travel schedule helps a little bit and those types of things. So last question, which I have, and just thinking – Mayock has come in, and he's been that buffer between Mark Davis, who isn't a football mind. He just isn't. He's admitted that. He brought Reggie McKenzie in because so many of his dad's buddies said, bring him in. He's a former Raider. He can help you be your He can be your GM. That's how he hired Reggie McKenzie. He was literally like tapping shoulders with the guys that he respected that worked with his father. Now we're looking at Mayock comes in, media guy, just like Gruden, two big media guys, just like Jason Witten, a media guy. But
Right.
so he comes in and he's instantly done great work, great drafting. Those things will come down the line of how great he ended up doing. But my question to you is like, just looking at it, what is Mayock's shelf life? Because Gruden's contract is 10 years. He's 3 years in. Like, how do we even gauge this? Like, is Mayock a guy that wants to, hang? I mean, he's up there in age. Is he going to hang up in Las Vegas? It's affordable big city. Is he, what do you see Mayock's relationship there? If the team goes 6-10, and Gruden's doing his tirade at the media, like, and then they want to talk about what happens. Like, what do you foresee Mayock's future with this organization?
That's a really great question. I think that Mayock has probably a longer shelf life. As a GM, I really like his insight to a lot of players and just the system itself. He's somebody that is so tedious in every detail and the way that he studies that it's amazing what kind of a wealth of knowledge that he has on everybody and every prospect that he brings in here. I mean, you want to talk about finding a gem in somebody like Max Crosby down, out of the 4th round, or just what they've been able to do with this team so far with the building pieces. And a lot of people are scratching their heads. I know people are scratching their heads at a pick like Amik Robertson, but then when you start to see how Mayock's plan works and how he's been able to put the pieces in place that this team needs to be successful, I think he's going to be somebody that has staying power with this team, and I think the Raider fans are going to be really happy to have him.
Yeah, I think the weirdest thing about that, one of my, I know Dwayne's favorite pick was Brian Edwards, and I think when we looked at the value of that, we're talking about Mayock, who went on live and said he literally said we had him graded as a 2nd round pick. And they got him, the beginning of the 3rd. They picked Bowden first. I mean, they had back-to-back picks. Doesn't really matter. But they had him as a second. They were like, and they did not have a 2nd-round pick. And it reminds me of last year with Trayvon Mullen when they traded back and still got him. And they said, that's the corner we wanted. And that's where when I'm looking at it, I'm like, Trayvon, like, they've just nailed it. So thank you for answering that question. I'm going to pass you on to Monster Mash Ken. But have fun out there. Stay cool in Las Vegas.
You bet. Thank you.
Hey, Heidi, what's going on? Nice talking to you. Representing
Monster
from
Mash.
Jersey here. That's right, Monster Mash. Big horror fan. So I got a couple questions for you. First and foremost, I loved your article with Tanner Muse. I'm a big Tanner Muse fan. I had him on my mock drafts way back when from the national championship games. I thought he was a real impact player. That being said, in your opinion, who is the player that, whether it was in free agency or in the draft, that's going to come in and make the biggest impact on this team?
It has to be Corey Littleton, because if it's not, then I just don't know what's going to happen with that linebacker core. You need a leader right there, and you need somebody who's going to make just huge plays right off the bat. And I think that Corey Littleton's going to be that guy. I really like him there. I also kind of like the veteran leadership that you get in Jason Witten.
Yeah.
He's somebody that is going to really help these tight ends come strides. And just thinking about all the different pieces that are there now, man, it's unbelievable what the changeover and the dynamic and what this team looks like now as compared to what it did 3 years ago when I first started coming out and covering this team. So I'm just really excited to see the difference makers that are going to be out there on that field come game day. And I think also when you look at the corners and you start thinking about a guy like Prince Amukamara that is going to be out there, or Nick Kwiatkowski too, he's another one that I think is going to be huge for this team. He was just somebody who never would have got a chance on the Bears defense, and look what he did in the small amount of time he had. He's impressive. So I just can't wait. I can't wait to see how this all works out, especially I think the linebackers and the changes that they made, that's going to be the big key for the Raiders.
It's funny that you say, you can't just pick one player because you start getting into the minutia of the depth, and that's one thing we just didn't have the years past is the depth, and there's talent. It's not just names that we just pulled out of practice squads or whatever. So it's really exciting. It's a really good answer. Even though it was like 20 different names, because I'm the same way. I'm like, I can't pick one because you look at both sides of the ball, it's all over the place. So really good stuff there. So I want to talk to you about your personal, about who you are. Now, if you look at the Raiders, you look at Amy Trask, she's a female. She came in, she's a trailblazer for a lot of females. I have 2 daughters of my own, and I hope one day that they can come in and not have to worry about being judged, whatever they want to do, and them being female, it's going to hurt them. So you are in, you're an NFL reporter. You're on one of the best teams in the world to report for. Who are some of your idols when you were younger, like the Susie Colberts, the Summer Sanders, stuff like that, people that I watched on TV? Who were some of your idols?
I always was, Michelle Tafoya was one. Pam Oliver was another. I grew up in the 80s, so those were the 2 that were really on the forefront when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. And I just knew I wanted to be on a football field, and I wanted to be out there, and I wanted to be part of sports. And NFL was always the goal, but it was hard to really get in and to break, I guess, into the NFL. Like you said, there's not a lot of women. There's still games I go to where I look around in the press room and there's maybe 2 of us, maybe. Right. So I'm hoping that, I don't know how I can do it. I'm just me, but I'm hoping that maybe, as other women see that it's possible that they can do it, that maybe I hope to set some sort of example for somebody. And I never thought of myself that way, but I hope that I can, if I can speak to anybody like your daughters that ever want to talk and have the conversation about how to you get to where you are. And I'm going to tell them it's a long, hard road, and you got to keep banging it down, even if you only got $5 shoes on. It's not an easy path. So, there were a lot of times where I was like, okay, so it's ramen noodles again. Just because if this is what you want to do, it's not always glitz and glamour, and it's a lot of time too away from family that you have to try to find the balance to be able to go on the road when, like you said earlier, that, Sean, there's 27,000 miles worth of games and, London and staying on the road for 6 weeks on a stretch. So there's a lot of balance that comes with it, and it's not always the easiest thing for anybody, whether you're a woman or a man. But yeah, I mean, I've been lucky to meet people along my path. One of them is Pat Kerwin, and to this day I thank Pat Kerwin for my career. He saw the talent that I had, and he said, "What are you doing in this stat room? I gotta get you over to my guys in Sirius. I had to get you into this door over here at CBS." And, he had me working play-by-play and stats for the NFL Today show in New York. So cool. He was somebody that helped open a door for me. And I think every time I see Pat, we have a big hug. We talk out with each other. We say hello. He was a big part of helping me break down some doors that I didn't know how to get through.
That's awesome. I commend you. I really hope that, women like you and you're making it. It's not like you don't know what you're talking about, because you humble guys that think they know what they're talking about, and you could go toe to toe. And we have some great women on our podcast network as far as Heidi and Jenny and Angry that I met these women and they have their own podcast, and it's just like, wow, you guys are amazing, and unfortunately, some men don't think that women can hold their own in sports, and it's a different world, and the fact that, you went through, 2 of us already, and we asked you questions and you're able just to pop them off like that. That is awesome. And I encourage you just to keep fighting and keep doing what you're doing. So as far as the 2020 season goes, you're in, the Raiders are in Vegas. You're in Vegas. Are you on the sidelines? Are you in the stands? Where are you at game day?
Game day, I'm usually with a giant camera and a lens and doing visuals for the team. But this season might be a little different. I'm usually on the field and I've been shooting photos and doing the post game video and interviews with the team. Uh, so I've done a lot of the groundwork from the video side as well as the sidelines. But this year they're probably looking at having me do a little bit more on camera stuff. So I've also got to do some analysis things in the studio on different game days. So I love doing that stuff.
Great.
Breaking down tape. I like that. Breaking down tape.
Yeah. So sometimes when I'm out on the in the studio doing the analyst work, I love that. That's my favorite thing. So hopefully I get to do more of that. But we'll see. They're going to be doing a big show. We got a pregame show lined up, and it's going to be an hour pregame show every week. So
Nice.
they're going to make me a part of that. I'm not exactly sure yet what I'm doing, but I know I'm a part of it.
Well, that's awesome. That's what it's about, and you're living the dream, man. Reporting for the Raiders, as far as the Raider Nation is huge. And speaking of how big the Raider Nation is, it is a nation. And now that the Raiders in Vegas, you're going to see an exodus of people coming in to watch Raider games. And I used to live down in close to Phoenix, Arizona, and in Los Angeles, so I know about Vegas. I know where the spots are at. Where are you recommending people to stay, to go? Make sure you go eat here. Make sure you stay away from there. Tell us your little rundown of Vegas.
All right, so you always got to go into that Caesar's buffet once they reopen that. That's the best. And I can't. There's another one too inside the Cosmo. They have these great little shot cups for breakfast. So you get you got a Bloody Mary one, you get a little tropical frozen one of some rum concoction, and then you got another one over there that's got like the fruit juice in it and some kind of vodka. You could sit there and have every little drink you want with some, French toast and fruit and crepes or whatever. I don't know. It's really nice in there. The Wicked Spoon, I think it's called. I always enjoyed the Cosmo, and they have a nice little pizza joint in there too. That it's hidden. It looks like pinball machines down an alley next to a pool table on the second floor next to Scarpetta, I think is the restaurant. But you go inside and it's called. It's a pizza place, and I can't remember the name for the life of me right now. But you go in there, and the pies are amazing. So you're a guy from New Jersey, right? Now, New York East Coast pizza. Let me tell you, I grew up in California, and I thought pizza was good. But then I went and lived on the East Coast for 10 years, and I didn't know what the hell pizza was until I lived in New York. So now this is the only place that I found so far that is like comparable. It's close. It's not a New York pizza, but it's satisfactory. So you can go in there and you can get your pizza, and it doesn't have a name. It doesn't say anything. Secret pizza! That's what it's called.
Works.
Secret pizza.
It's so funny you say that, because as I mentioned before, I grew up in Los Angeles and Arizona, and I used to go to like these pizza spots where like, oh, this is the best. And then I met my wife and stuff, and I brought her back home to visit my family, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna take you to the best pizza place. These Jersey and New York, they don't have nothing on this, and I'm eating the pizza. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is horrible. I don't know what I was doing with my life for 10 years. And I know Dwayne knows what's up too. Dwayne's from Connecticut, so he knows the East Coast.
And the CT.
Yeah.
Sorry, my friend, I had a roommate that did that. He go, the CT, where my peeps be. I just had to say it. That's it.
Well, listen, Heidi, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm going to pass you back over to Dwayne. But before I let you go, if you ever make your way back out east and to New York or Jersey, let me know, and I will buy you some pizza and some nice scotch. Take care, Heidi.
Yeah. Oh, scotch. Okay. Nice.
There you go.
Nice.
All right, so you're in Vegas right now. So we gotta do a couple over unders real quick, Fast and Furious real quick. So we got in the middle. We got Collins and Hurst. Who has more sacks?
Okay, fast. You said fast. I'll go Hurst.
Hurst. All right. Over under on Terry Von Mullen INTs, 5 or more. Or 5 or less. I mean, I over under 5. 5 is the number I got right now.
Oh, that's a push. That's
a push.
tricky.
That's
The
a
Vegas
push.
number
That's
right there. That's a push.
That's a push. That's a push.
Yeah.
That's a push. Last one, and my favorite is: will the Raiders kicker be named Daniel or Dominic?
Ooh, Dominic.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that kid. All right, and last question. I'm wearing 52 right now. It's not Khalil Mack. It's Kurt Morrison. But
Okay.
can we put to rest as great as Khalil is? Can we finally put the rest the Khalil Mack trade?
Yes.
Yes.
It's time to go night night.
It's time to go night.
Night night.
Tuck it in.
Yes.
Put a little blanket on it.
It's over. All right.
We're gonna quote that. That's excellent.
I
good.
like that
Night-night.
one. That's a promo right there for the show. I like that one. So you can see her at Heidi Fang on Twitter. She's part of the Vegas Nation podcast and on the Review Journal out there in Vegas. And stay cool. I know tomorrow will probably be 120. So